It's the Dev Friday Show with Mark and Tim.
And we're finally back, right? It's
back,
been 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, right? 2 Fridays ago, I had to take the time off because we had a school thing. So we homeschool the kids, and at the end of every year, they have to go and be evaluated by a teacher that could teach their grades, so they can look at them and say, okay, this kid kind of knows what they're supposed to know. We can kick them off to the next grade. So that was 2 weeks ago.
How'd that go?
That was good. All the kids
Did
apparently
your kids pass?
Yeah. I mean, we've got a couple of them that are ahead. So it's all good. It's all good.
That's good.
It usually goes pretty well. I think the kids like it because it's confirmation that, all right, you got through this grade, or you're at least where you think you are.
It's true.
The wife likes it because it's also confirmation that she got the kids where they need to be. So everybody was happy. Got the letter to send to the school district and all. Oh, I should say that all but the oldest. It's high school. So, and this is interesting content, I'm sure, for almost everybody that's listening to it. In Pennsylvania, you can get a diploma as a homeschooler. I forget how the law is written, but it's written in such a way that organizations can give the diploma. So it's not like an equivalent, like a GED or something like that. But there's actually a homeschool program that has higher standards than what the state would have to get a diploma, and you can get the Howard Richmond diploma, which I'm guessing, maybe different high schools, different diplomas have different meaning.
I don't think so.
But yeah.
I think just so you say you have your high school diploma, I think that's
usually pretty good. But if you do know anything about the Howard Richmond diploma, having a Howard Richmond diploma means that you went a little bit over and above. So she's doing that.
Oh, okay.
Because she's doing that, we're having her evaluated by someone different than does the rest of the kids. Just because he's kind of core to that whole Howard Richmond organization. So we have one left to do. We have the oldest one left to do middle of this month, but all the rest passed just fine. All went well.
So this is an annual month of May ritual that you have to go through?
Yeah, end of school, end of the year. Yeah. Yep. I think it used to be if you were older than 8. Now it's if you're older than, I want to say 5. You have to submit an affidavit to homeschool before the school year starts, and then get them evaluated and submit the evaluator's letter at the end of the year. And depending on how old the kid is, you have to do standardized testing. Some of the years we actually fell this year because the kid's ages, nobody needed it. Next year, I think everybody will need it, just to submit those scores as well. So that's what kept us off the air. Not that it's really air, but that's what.
I know we took a 2-week break, and it kind of felt like my life stopped, Tim.
Is that what it was?
I was not able to talk to you on
last week. I was ready to go. I had it all set. I'm ready to go, and then all of a sudden, Mark's like,
and then my house is falling apart.
Yeah, Mark's like, we can't do it today. I've got a leak, and I hired a plumber to fix it. Because Mark's from Pennsylvania, it's actually a leak, and he hired a plumber to fix it. If Mark was from New Jersey, that would mean something completely different.
Well, here's a pro tip about life, Tim. First of all, don't let your house burn down. Second tip is don't let somebody rebuild.
I wasn't going to go there, but okay.
And the second tip is don't let somebody rebuild your house for you.
So don't let it burn down. Don't let somebody rebuild it. I feel like somewhere in there, there's also like don't flood it either. Is that what you're currently dealing with?
I know. It feels like a flooded basement actually feels easier than what we've been kind of dealing with the past couple of weeks. But
so we got a leak somewhere?
It's actually 2 different places, and it happened at the exact same time. 2 totally different problems. But since the house is, I think it's been about a year or so since it was technically finished. But even though the whole rebuild took like a year and a half, which is kind of crazy. But I won't go into that because that was a very, very dark time for me. But over the past couple of weeks, we discovered 2 separate leaks. The first leak that happened, it was a, what a pot filler is above the sink?
Yeah.
So my wife had a pot filler, which we didn't have that installed. And, since we were putting some money into rebuilding the house, not just the insurance money, but also our own money and kind of, trying to improve the house and trying to make it better for the second version.
So this is a pot filler. Sometimes there's pot fillers that are just really big faucets. But this is a pot filler that's coming from the ceiling?
Well, it's coming from the floor, but coming behind the the stove area,
Oh, so
like
it kind
the
of
wall
comes out.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
It
Over
come-
the stove.
it
Yeah,
kinda-
yeah.
It comes out of the wall.
All
So
right, yeah.
so my wife wanted to have that and had that installed, so we paid extra to get that installed. And we also used our own kitchen guy that we hired outside of the contractor
You
that
have a
the
kitchen
insurance
guy.
the insurance company was using. Well, okay, there was, like I said, that week, that whole year and a half of the house rebuild was a very dark time. A lot of back and forth and dealing with contractors, dealing with the insurance company, dealing with their HOA. It was a very, very challenging time. So one of the things we want to do, since we wanted to do a lot of custom things to the kitchen, because that was my one important thing my wife wanted to do for rebuilding the house, was to really try to do a lot of extra work for the kitchen, we just hired our own kitchen guy to do that. It'd just be easier
Gotcha.
just to kind of pay him directly, and just, he was going to do all the installs, the cabinetry, the tiling on the backsplash, the walls, and like we were just going to work with one guy. And he was reasonable. He's a nice guy. His private contractor. We got him connected through the company that we bought the kitchen cabinets from. Super guy, nice guy to work with. And overall, I think he did a good job. But the one area that he did not do a good job, which we just found out, like I said, about two. I think the issue started happening about 3 weeks ago, and then after about 2 weeks, like right before that week that we were going to be. That we were put a pause on our show here, and that you need to take a week off.
Mhm.
We discovered that the tile was cracking around the pot filler.
Oh, that's not good.
And so we're like, okay, so why is this? I was like, I don't know. I was like, this is kind of crazy. And then the tile cracked, and then over the next couple of days, then we started seeing dripping coming from right where the faucet connects to the tile. And we're like, okay, this is not good. So I took it off. We just took the piece of the cracked tile just to kind of take a close look at it. It looked okay, but then we saw what the reason what happened was that the installer just basically used small drywall screws to screw in this heavy fixture against the tile. And what was happening, those drywall screws
They were
deteriorated. They deteriorated and put pressure on, and then just cracked the tile. Then when I started to remove more of the tile, because I was like, okay, I'm going to have to get something. Either I'm going to, if it's just a small tile patch job, I can do that myself and to kind of fix it. But if it's a larger plumbing issue or a bigger mold issue, I don't know. We had to kind of figure. So I just started to rip away some more tile just to kind of see it. And then I started to see that this must have been leaking. Like the seal, it must not have been sealed right with the pipe. And
or
then
the
pipe,
leverage of the pipe is
exactly,
is
and was
worked
creating a
against you.
very
Yeah.
small leak that I think has been leaking ever since it was first installed. And there was mold behind there, and it was just it was pretty much a disaster. So what I did was I hired a plumber that we've used, the good guy who has his own plumbing company, to help us out to just make sure it's going to get installed right. So he kind of did some initial work to kind of fix up added some additional support to the area, and added a new pipe. And then I'm going to be, I still on my list. That's one of my weekend project to do this weekend, is to actually do the tiling work. So I'm going to do the tiling work instead of paying somebody else, because I can probably do that myself. And then then have the plumber come in and then do the final install of that. But yeah, dealing with that, and then a whole separate issue that was happening at the exact
one
same
leak
time.
in the kitchen, right? And then you got another leak.
And then another issue where we had a leak that was coming down from our hallway bathroom, like into the first floor. And just so 3 drops started occurring after the kids took their shower.
That's no good.
And we're like, and it's just like, this is another thing of like, okay, it's coming through. Then we had to contact the contractor who, that we don't like. I won't even say their name, Belfour. Don't ever work with them. They're
Not a sponsor. Not
No.
a sponsor of this podcast.
And if you look at my Twitter stream in the past, over the past year,
Yeah, not a sponsor of
You probably would
Mark's Twitter
see
stream
you probably
either,
would see
yeah.
some interesting posts about them. But I had to contact, because they're the ones that they guaranteed the work. So I was like, had to contact, because I was not going to pay for this and to fix this. So we contacted, luckily, the project manager and the guy who they sent out to work with. They just sent a good plumber who was able to kind of do some inspecting and to figure out the problem was. And basically the problem was they just didn't seal around the shower, the tub. It was just a bad install.
Yeah.
And there's really just some things they just had to patch and install. They did have to rip away some drywall. They had to cut holes into our ceilings. And also we had a similar issue too that was happening in a master bathroom shower, that they also took basically a drywall sheets behind the shower to kind of figure out where the leak was coming from. And it just ended up
3 leaks now.
Yeah, there was another leak too. It was totally, but it was kind of right next to each other. But it was kind of it was a similar issue where like they just didn't caulk, they didn't patch, they just didn't they didn't finish up the install correctly. They just really did a very cheap, lazy job at the end. So
So you're saying, I just want to get this straight. You would not recommend working with him. Is that what you're saying?
I would not. No.
No.
So,
All right.
so fortunately, I think the plumbing issue's fixed. We don't have the leak anymore, so that's good at least for the. But then they're coming back next week to actually fill in the walls, so, to lay new drywall and to patch it up. And
Oh, right, because you
do some
got holes in
painting,
your walls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
yes,
that's an exciting
past-
2 weeks then, I guess. Yeah.
It's been a very, very stressful, very I know it's not been good. But looking forward, like I said, looking forward to getting back on track, getting back on schedule with you.
Okay.
Having our weekly discussion to
Yeah.
keep me motivated to try to be productive because I have the summertime. Looking
Not
forward
just
to
productive, Mark, but I think we should try to be more professional.
professional. True, and this is what I was thinking about. You should think
Is
about we're coming up to 30 episodes, right?
Oh, we are, and I just feel like we should revisit some of the past.
We're episode 29. We're at episode
This is
29.
episode 29. Next week will be the 30th. I just want to revisit some of the past because, Mark, I told you I would tell you if we made it.
Yeah.
I would tell you when it was. I think I said it was my. I would if we made it to my 40th birthday, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure everybody knows we haven't. So that's. But in case you were wondering, is it Tim's birthday today? I would not do an entire show and not tell you it was my birthday. I wouldn't do that. Now,
Yeah.
other people may. Other people may do an entire podcast with somebody and not even mention.
I don't like talking about my own birthday. I don't like growing
that
older,
it's their
Tim. That's
birthday.
not my.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. So,
But if we make it to my 40th birthday, I'll let you know.
okay. Well, hopefully we'll still be doing the show by the time we make it there. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see. So 30 episodes, almost 30
So
episodes.
my thought was, over the summer and trying to think about where we've gone, because 30 episodes is a good amount of episodes, and this has pretty much been
In fact, I know people
commitment
listen
between
to it.
you and me to do this.
Yeah, the fact that we got to 30. Somebody pinged me the other day that I work with. So I think it's basically just people that I might work with that feel sorry for me that listen to this, and then your sisters, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I've actually gotten to know some of your coworkers through Twitter.
on the Twitters, yeah,
Which is great.
yeah.
I think that's great because they comment here or there about the show or something we talked about, and then I get
just
to
the other
follow them.
day.
And so
Yeah, one of them was asking me, says catching up on the podcast. Heard, honestly, now it's what the last podcast, not the current one because I just released one today, but that's 2 weeks old now. So it was the one before, so that would have been episode 27, when we were talking about Git emojis and Git and commits, and he was asking how on Linux I got the emojis because I don't use like the colon format. I use the actual Unicode. And he was just asking what tool on Linux I use to actually get that Unicode. So yeah, there's one listener, and it wasn't one of those, oh, you talked about that on the podcast, cool, I'll listen to it. No, the conversation came because he was listening to the podcast. Look at that. And hopefully, Phil, you're listening to this podcast too.
So since we don't do any show prep for the show,
None at all.
we want to keep it super casual. Almost like, a conversation between developer friends, right? So we want to keep it light, fun.
End of the week.
Yeah,
Talk
and really
about
not
what's going
set too
on.
much of an agenda. But at the same time, I was thinking about what can we do over the summer, because I do want to do some more work. You say on my project list, I have, features I need to do, work on for the site. Also, how are different ways we can try to bring in more viewers to the show. So is there a way we can make the show viewers? Yes. Well, viewers too. We do have a video
I
feed
know,
here, Tim.
but it's always better. It's always better than the podcast.
It is. What are some ways we can make the show a bit more professional, just leveled up, just a little bit more, just so we can feel more comfortable, maybe clipping the show or, trying to get get more listeners into
Gotcha.
week by week. So I was thinking about a format that we could do that still keep the show prep light, but also would give it just a little bit more focus, because, our shows have been kind of mixed over the past 29, 30 shows that we've done here. Is that there's been some really good segments, which we've gotten some really deep into topics. There's been other times we've been kind of slow or kind of meandering, or even just talking about cooking, right?
Yeah, we have talked
so,
about cooking.
so
that we have done.
Not really
cooking with computers.
True, with technology. So not have a huge amount of focus to it. So I was wondering, what if we agree to each week that one of us will bring a topic to the show? Just one topic. We don't have to research it that much. It could be something that we're working on this week. It could be, or the past week, something that we're thinking about.
We agree that each week one of us will bring a topic.
Well, we'll each bring one topic. and then
I
we'll
was
split.
with you. If one of us will bring a topic, but okay.
No, because we don't keep it each week, and then we'll split it the conversation of roughly around 20 to 30 minutes because the show's an hour. That we'll
Okay.
talk about, and we'll try to, let's say if we're talking about the first topic, we'll try to end it within like half of the show, and then we'll switch gears.
Okay, and it'd probably be bad if my topic was whatever we want to talk about. Like I can't bring that topic, right? Okay. So,
You have to bring it. Just
got
has
that
to be
wrong.
about something, and to have some technical or developer focus to it.
Okay.
And then what it will help us do, we can say, okay, we'll have like two sort of like a side A and side B of our show,
Okay.
and we'll just switch. We'll take turns.
Well,
you
we
know?
can't get rid of our
Yeah.
witty banter to start the show.
No, because this is the only time we talk too.
It
So we
is.
need the
It
first
is.
5-10 minutes to catch up.
Like
so.
we don't talk in the prep at all. Like
No, we
like
don't,
we
so.
join on here and we pretty much ignore each other. Like we don't even want to be seen on the same Zoom call. I like how when we're talking about how to make it more professional, there is zero thought of Tim not having clothing hanging up behind him. I like
Oh,
that. I
that's-
like that we don't even care.
Yeah. Well, your
Because
lighting,
it's-
I do like your improved lighting, or maybe just be
It's
like we
just the
talk
sun.
about
It's a
because
little
the
bit
sun is
better.
down today. So
Yeah, I do also have two very bright lights over there that are over my plant starts for the garden. So I've got some peppers and some tomatoes and some cucumbers and squash, and then a whole tray of microgreens. And so maybe I'm getting some spill over there.
is this all in the basement or the attic where you're
Yeah,
at?
this is the third floor.
Wait,
Yep.
so you have like a
Yep.
garden in your attic?
Just the starts, just the starts.
start. Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
I start from seed, then I'm gonna go plant them. I'm way behind on that. Like if I was ahead of things or even on time, I'd have all the lettuce planted by now because that you can plant in the cold.
And do
as
you
it
find that
is-
it's better to do that in the attic because of the heat and the air kind
I
of?
find it's better to
quality
do in the
of
attic because I am here every day, and then I don't forget to water them. And the rest of the house is inhabited by 8 children, and there's not a
Yeah.
place to put plants.
Yeah.
There's part of me that would like to do a growing type thing down in the kitchen, because our kitchen dining room is all together. So if we were doing more microgreens all the time, that'd be cool because we'd always have them there and we could harvest them. So yeah, that's a thought. Okay, so topic. Was I supposed
Yeah.
to come with a topic? I know
No,
I've distracted us.
not at all. But
'Cause I have
has,
one.
Oh, I have one too. We could talk, but it's there
Sorry,
we go.
we're
See,
17 minutes into this
we're-
thing. I don't know
we're-
if we get 2 topics. Yeah, this is
well, the first topic was really making this professional, right? So that's
Okay,
really
that's
one thing. I'm
oh, is
talking
that your
about.
topic?
To get your feedback on that and to see if that was something you would like to, a format you would like to.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
pursue.
I
Okay.
think so. We have our little bit of intro, and then one of us kicks off their topic. We do about halfway through, so about half
Because
past
also,
or something.
because
we-
one of the
we
big
switch to the other
features,
one.
which
Yeah.
I keep talking about wanting to do, and you keep
the
pushing me to do
chapters.
too, chapters. Because I've also been finding, because I do listen to probably more podcasts than you two, and one thing I wish with
Yeah.
that more shows would adopt, because I do like, even with YouTube shows, like I like when they do
being
like
able to
the-
go through the chapters
like,
and find
or-
the content
like-
you want, right?
or at least I'd do a time code, listing a
Yeah.
time code in the
Yeah.
in the show comments. That's so useful because shows that are like ours, that are like an hour or even 30 minutes long, who has the time to really listen
Who
to a
does?
full hour except me,
we
which I'm
barely
kind of
have the
crazy.
time to do it.
But I think the chapters, if we talk about something interesting, and then if you see that in a chapter list, and you could just go right into that area, I think that would be good. So I think having the topics would provide a little bit more
I like it.
structure for that. So
And I will say one thing I was thinking about doing was in one of our 2-week breaks, I was thinking of releasing the show so I could get back on the schedule where I release it every Friday, like in real time. So we actually
Ooh.
release it the day it's done.
So
now,
it's interesting because of like the time it takes to talk about your process. So you
well, that's the thing. It doesn't
after
take
the
much
show gets
time.
done.
Doesn't
like,
take
what are
much
the
time.
steps you need to do to get this to
Get the
produced
recording?
and out
Yeah,
there?
get the recording from you. I have my own local recording, and then that process is just to sync it up, because we don't do any weird like, okay, clap at the same time or anything like that. To sync it up, I just grab the audio from Restream. So I grab the live stream audio, bring it down, sync that up with the bumper music, because I have the bumper music in a 1-hour track, right? It starts and ends. So I sync that up. I sync up the start bumper music from the live stream. So once that's synced, then I sync each of our tracks with the live stream. So I look where I see you talking, slide it over till it matches, play it. Okay, it sounds like we're basically right on top of each other. Do the same thing with my track, and now delete the live stream. So now we have 2 high-quality audio tracks that are synchronized right with the bumper music, and then I just hit a button that exports everything. Now it exports an MP3 mix of the entire show, which there's no I don't do any automation of the bumper music. The bumper music automatically dips down. There's volume controls that are already automated, And there's, for those of you who are audio people, we have a side channel a compressor where we feed in the audio from either me or Mark, any vocal, and the voiceover guy that does our start, and that dips the bumper music. So we have a good sounding bumper without any type of, I don't have to run the faders myself. It just takes the output of our tracks and ducks it when it needs to. Same thing with the outro bumper. That's all done. As long as it's sized, I hit a button, it does the entire mix, and then it does 2 tracks. It does Mark's track and my track as separate. So our mix has a slightly panned to either side, so you'll hear it better than the mono that you get from the live stream. It'll be easier to differentiate in the conversation. It mixes down to 2 separate tracks that then I combine. So that was all just line up the audio, hit a button to export. Then I have to combine them with Socks. So anybody who's done command line stuff knows Socks is an audio tool for the command line. I combine them with Socks to left and right stereo. And then I upload that to Assembly AI and tell them to transcribe it. And they can, because we have left and right, they will transcribe it as this was on the left, this was on the right. So I get the transcription JSON back in a couple of minutes, honestly. And then I have a simple script that just goes through and iterates over the time code and kind of builds the Tim's talking. So put Tim there and then everything. And then Mark said something. And when we talk over each other, it goes Tim, Mark, Tim, Mark, Tim, Mark, Tim, Mark. And that's fine. There's better ways to do it. But that's how I get the transcription. And then from that transcription, I build the chapters. Now, that's the thing I have not been doing. I just have not had the time.
That's
to
the
do
thing that probably takes the most amount of time.
Right. Everything else is easy.
Yeah.
And since I've not been able to get to the chapters, it's
Yeah.
like, well, then why don't I just mix the audio and get it up there, and we can backfill the chapters as needed. And then with what you're saying, if we actually do bring more structure to the content side of the show, my chapters aren't just like basically, hey, they talked about this random thing, they talked about that random thing, and then they talked about this big thing, and it'd be easier to get those chapters with more focus. So I think this could work. I'm really interested in the very few people who listen. What are your thoughts? And since basically everybody who listens either follows me and Mark on Twitter or works with me, just let us know.
Yeah, because like I said, doing the feed is pretty, because basically just we do with the Gatsby platform to basically reads a markdown file, and then that takes and generates the feed information for the podcast from that. And then doing the rest of the feed information is relatively simple. It's basically just copy and paste and just filling in the small part. But then setting up the chapters, that's the only thing I could see from a tech standpoint, and be able to not just copy paste it, but also organize. And if we do, once I get the chapters working, it is going to have to be structured in some type of a list, array format, comma separated list. So it's going to have to be a little bit of structure to that, which you don't want to forget a comma there when you're quickly copy and pasting the chapter names in there. So any way that
it's already structured in that I put the time codes. Well,
is it already structured into an array?
Not an array, but I mean, it's structured in that I'm putting time codes in. So yeah, we just have to do another step of processing. But you're right. That's the hard part. I can't just have machine.
Could you do it as part of your script? Didn't you? Because you said you had a script that you were doing.
Well, that's just
basically could output it as like an array in a string, like in string format.
That is the transcription. So I can do a transcription for you with time codes, which could be really cool, because we could go to that part of the transcription. But that's not that's not like the chapters.
Yeah.
The chapters I have to go in, because even though I turn on an assembly at like chapter or topic detection, it's not great. I mean, it's probably great for people that
you
aren't
still have
us.
to read through it and verify it. And
so. But it's like people that aren't us. Yeah, it may be fantastic, but us, no. Like,
or maybe comical.
I'm gonna just find one here quick if I can. I don't even know where I'm looking. But yeah, it's the chapters that take the time, and but again, I think we're thinking the same thing. Like,
chapters probably the most useful feature,
right? Because it's so nice, and this is what we used. I forget which of the podcast apps I was doing this in, but you can make, and the podcast 2.0 supports this. You can make something called a snippet or something where you define it as a user, and then you can share that out of, I think it was, I don't know, it was one of the podcast apps. And I was sharing that on Twitter when it was like, oh, this was a cool section of something that we talked about. Chapters would make that so much easier to do.
Yeah.
And then you can share out parts of the show, and that helps in terms of reach and visibility and all that. So here's a chapter that they the first chapter from last show. So this is episode 29 now. So if you have listened to episode 28, you'll know that these will resonate with you, because you will know this is exactly what happened. But the first chapter from last week is Mark and Tim produce interesting content every Friday.
Which we do.
That's completely accurate, right? That's for the first minute 33 seconds. That was their chapter. After that, it gets interesting. Here's the next chapter. He will eat his lunch before the show to add more importance to the show. That's
well,
I feel like we talked
debatable.
about that.
Yeah,
we talked about that.
But
I
would
should
somebody
be eating
really
lunch.
want to click on a chapter title?
I don't think so.
That's
I don't
listed
think
as
so.
that. I don't.
Third chapter, 6 minutes into last week's, 6.5 minutes into not the last week's, but the last episode. Someone needs to rewind this one to figure out how they got to here, which may be true, but I don't know how helpful that is. 9 seconds later, we have another chapter. One of their players had a conflict with a theater program, so he couldn't play. And I think we all know what that is about. And then there's no chapter. There's no chapter for 18 minutes. I'm still looking for the next chapter. So that's just all to say, next chapter is 22 minutes in. He will bring the company back to public in 5 to 10 years and then make it public again.
Is there some way that you can adjust the settings?
Like, can we change the sensitivity of your algorithm?
Well, just like I brought the fact, if we could limit, let's say we had 2 main topics within it, split up between the.
See if it could find that.
No, but you could limit to like time frames. So let's say have a chapter every 5 minutes or even 10 minutes.
Don't think they support that. That'd be something interesting to look at, or another API that does something similar.
Just to help narrow it down.
Yeah, 41 minutes. Here's the chapter. Tim won't be here next Friday, so the show will be canceled. Accurate, not helpful. Then 43 minutes in, Mark is looking for a USB keychain to store his private data.
Oh, that's a good
Mark?
one.
Were you Mark? I don't even remember that being true.
Remember we talked about security, having like a fingerprint reader and that was integrated with a USB drive that we could scan your.
Well, we were talking. I just didn't realize that you were looking for one. I thought that was.
Yeah. Well, I haven't bought one, and I'm not serious about it. It was just a thought of, but.
Yeah, 50 minutes in, when setting up a virtual service on Google Cloud, the process of generating the keys, certifying the SSL cert was manual. We remember that discussion.
Yeah.
And then Damon doesn't want to work as a front-end developer because it's not as friendly as when he was a web administrator.
That's a great.
That one's off the rails.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know how it got that, but that's what it got. And I feel like that was the last chapters. That's what wrapped up last week. No. Oh, yeah. So Tim and Mark won't be here next week, so they won't teach the C++ course. I didn't know we were teaching one, but yeah. So there's something to be done better about that. We could have better chapter detection, but certainly I think little snippets and the chapters are if we can make that easier, it'd be better. But yeah, I hope to get back in a schedule where we're releasing in real time so people can consume this content on demand. And that takes us to about half the show. Was that your topic, Mark, or do you have another topic?
It was, unless you have something more interesting to talk about. And well, like I said, I do have something I could wait till next week to talk about because I know that the crypto market has fallen down to the depths.
A little bit. There was a point.
It would be interesting to talk to you because we never really got into that about my experience and also your thoughts of, So
I think I mined Bitcoin years ago on a laptop.
Didn't everybody?
And I have no idea. There's that one. Well, there was that one guy that had like a gazillion dollars in Bitcoin on a secured drive that he had 2 more chances before it would self-destruct to put in whatever his passphrase is. Mm-hmm. Like it was a 10. After 10 chances, it just destroys the internal data. He had used 8, 2 more. It's worth billions, and he's just. I hope he feels better now because it's not worth billions anymore. So it's not as big of a deal.
I know that. The only time that I really minded, I try to do it seriously, but it was just an experiment because I think that's what most programmers, developers get into hear about mining and they kind of I used an old Dell that I did have a dedicated AMD card. And then I mined some Ethereum on it because to mine,
you can mine
between
Ethereum or
Bitcoin. Bitcoin's primarily CPU intensive, and then
Yeah.
Ethereum is GPU. So if you have a good GPU, which and that it was a small PC, it did have a dedicated card. And I was just curious just to see what it was like and see what the process was. I think I probably mined maybe like $10 or something like that, if that of value. I can't remember. It was so long ago, and I don't even think I have that anymore. But it was kind of just an interesting process to kind of see also the services that are around that, so you could connect to your computer to like a node network that would do like distributed mining. So you basically just mine like small blocks at a time, and then get rewarded for how many blocks you do and something like that. So that was kind of an interesting experience. But I think most developers kind of have some. I know at NCC they were mining from the Fab Lab.
Really?
They had dedicated mining machines. I don't know how much they made or how much they mined, but they were doing it for a couple of years. Yeah, they had some dedicated machines.
Like a full Bitcoin?
I don't know. I think they were doing Bitcoin, because I think it's what I did a tour one day with them, and I was talking about that. They was next to their sound studio that they that they reworked, and they set up a couple PCs, and they said they were doing mining. Just I think once again they were doing it as an experiment just to see what it was like.
Yeah. No, but I've never. So other than the fact that I thought I mined Bitcoin years ago, like I think I may have, and I just have no idea, what the key is anymore, or where the where the file is, because it's just a hash someplace, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No idea about that. But the only other thing I had is I was gifted some stellar lumens
Okay.
as part of being on Keybase. They just dropped a bunch of stellar lumens. Someone reached out to me. He's like, dude, it's pretty much spiked. You should probably sell that off to something more stable. And at that point, it's worth $400.
Yeah, that's good.
So I had $400 worth of stellar.
Yeah.
So I took it out, put it in Bitcoin, put it in Ethereum, and actually put it in Gala, which was that's the what is it? Farmville people that are making now their crypto games or something like that.
That's more of a token, which we could talk about the difference between a coin and a token, right?
I guess we could.
Because the Gala too. It's Ethereum. Well, this is a developer show, Tim. We should get a little technical.
No, Gala is coin. That's
what's curious. But are they?
But they're doing tokens too.
Are they? So it is its own network. So it has its own coin.
It's based on Ethereum. It's based on Ethereum.
Well, if it's based on Ethereum, it could be. I like I said, I haven't taken a look at it, so I'm not sure if it's.
My understanding is the Gala coin is a coin, in the normal sense, but they also have NFTs that they sell too, and that's more like the stuff that's in game, like in-game property, in-game resources, things like that, that you then can also own and trade and use NFTs that way. Which I guess we can have a whole discussion about NFTs, but that kind of makes sense.
I do think as a developer, I think it is interesting to just know the difference between like a coin and a token, and just know like what is what. A coin is specifically meant to be mined, and it does take some work for that. Like we talked about, either has to be CPU or GPU and solve a math problem in order to actually physically, or not physically, but to actually generate the digital token. And that token, coin. I'm starting interchanging myself now to generate that coin. But then once that's done, that coin was meant to do is hold some value, either like Bitcoin to represent some value monetarily, like what gold would be. And then you could exchange that value between, merchants or between other people, and to be able to have basically a currency, right? That's the way it was designed for. And then tokens, like you're talking about, for like within a game or within a platform, that generating tokens is actually relatively easy, and anybody can basically generate a token with a script. It doesn't take that much processing at all. Just like we could, basically. We could SHA something, we could encrypt something,
sign something.
It's basically all it is. And so tokens can be created just without any work at all, and they're meant to be used within a platform, kind of within a tool set that you want to be. And they could also hold value too, depending upon the utility of that token.
Right, but it's the value of the token. It's not the value that's
kind of. One of my favorite tokens, which I don't invest much of because I don't think it's a good. Because like I said, I'm not a big fan of like investing in tokens in general, but I do like the BAT token, which you talked about, the Brave browser. My love for the Brave browser, and how I that's my preferred and favorite browser of all time.
Using it, yeah.
Which you earn. It's not just the fact of earning, but I like the idea behind it, where it's meant to be a token that you can exchange with other creators. So that if you go to, let's say, our website, if we actually had it integrated, or go to a podcast website or a YouTube, or let's say a video site that was integrated with the BAT token system, you could then basically tip or donate these tokens to the user, and then the creator, and then they would they would have it in their wallet, and then they could either exchange those tokens for another coin or token, or they could give it back out. So it's meant to be more of a way to share value, right? Not really meant to really, I
So
hope
you get value by browsing through it, and then you could share it with somebody. And they could share it with somebody else.
And I do like the idea of that. Like, I like the transactional nature of that, which I like those where I don't expect those tokens to get. You shouldn't really invest them to get rich off of, because, like I said, they could generate these tokens fast. But I do like the idea that if these tokens did hold some value, let's say if it was
saying I shouldn't buy a picture of a bored ape, and somehow think
which
that
I have not done.
Own it and no one else could see it.
But I had thought about it as a developer. I think that's a pretty cool thing, and I kind of want to make that game. You talked about my skill claw game, having like a claw game with all the objects inside the claw game is actually NFT objects that you could then collect.
Because NFT is a token, right?
Yes. So it's a basic, it's just a token that gets generated on the fly. But it's it's non-fungible, so it doesn't change. It's permanent. It's on the block. It's on the blockchain. So that's the other idea. So
that's the representation that you're saying. The data of the token is unchangeable.
Yes, and that you own that. Well, at least that you own it, right? So
the
it's tied
blockchain
back
says
to
it's yours, right? But you could sell it, and that just be a transaction.
It would be.
But the token itself wouldn't change in its.
That's correct.
I want to say value, but it's like it's data.
Yeah, and going back to that is the fundamental nature of the blockchain, which basically is just a ledger that never changes, right? So database, a read-only data, or sorry, a write-only, a read-only. No, I'm getting confusing myself.
Well, you can only write once.
Write once, read-only database, right?
Yeah, something like that. Not never changing is the idea. Self-validating. I don't know if that's the right word.
So that's where from the NFT, that's where the non-fungible.
Right.
Gets created.
And that's where things like the blockchain technology is interesting in a lot of other things. It might be interesting in, say, healthcare records if you wanted to apply it to that. So all that said, though, I think Gala, the coin, is a coin, and they also have NFTs as part of their game. Like, I think because one of their game is like this Farmville-esque game, right? And I'm pretty sure you can get, and it's not like you'd be minting it. I think they'll mint it, but you can get property, right? And then it's yours. And if people use it, they might have to pay you for it. But it's yours, and you could sell it. I'm guessing on a lot of these things. I'm just kind of piecing together what little knowledge I have with what I would expect to be. And in my mind, I mean, it's an interesting concept. Is it a good concept? I don't know, but at least to me seems a reasonable way to apply this concept of NFTs, as opposed to somehow thinking the image of the ape is only yours. I just don't even understand that at all. All that to say, though, I had $400, man. I split it up between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some sketchy sites that would actually let me trade Gala. Which I'm
that's the other thing.
Don't even know how I was able to buy those coins. Coinbase supports it now, so I have some in Coinbase too. But other ones, all that said, it was up to about all my holdings were about to $5,000. Only from 400, and I'm telling you, that was 2021. That was a year ago, a year and a couple months ago. That somebody pings me is like, hey, you got the Stellar Lumens? I'm like, yeah, I've not really looked at it. Yeah, they spiked up. They're worth about $400. You might want to transfer it out before they crash. So do that, diversify a little bit, make a couple trades. A couple months ago, it's worth $5,000. I haven't looked at it now. What it's probably worth? Nothing. $3.
Well, it's probably worth.
I'm still probably back around 400.
No, it could. Well, or it could be around 1,000. It's probably my gut feeling. If it went up to 7, it could probably be around $1,000, $1,500. Probably where it's at.
I should check. So, but anyway, we could talk about that. I don't know if we should talk about it this show, but that's a good topic for maybe a future show.
Well, because
unless we just talked about it, I don't know. Is that what happened?
No. Well, we could just talk about it generally too, because the market is down by such amount. People, I hate the media how that freaks out about this, because if you've been following crypto for a while, this is just what happens, right? It's just because it's very volatile. And I think too, if you invest in it, if you put your money into it, you have to be knowledgeable of the area to a certain level, because it's kind of crazy. But then again, like I said, before getting into crypto, I did some trading as just some traditional stocks and options, and just for when I was.
But you were doing like day trading, right?
A little bit, but more or less not really like day. More or less just maybe buying something and then flipping the next day. I wasn't really, because I didn't really have because I was teaching at the time, so I didn't have enough time to really watch it, like a traditional day trader, unless it was the summertime. In summertime, I guess you could say, yeah. There was one summer I actually did it for a good amount of time. That was my kind of a summer project that I did in between teaching, but to invest, it's not something I would have, but from a utility, from a programming developer standpoint, as a platform standpoint, it's really super fascinating. I do feel there's always going to be some need for, because I am more, we talked about has my libertarian perspectives, and I do love the idea of.
Sorry, you have libertarian perspectives?
Yes, of the idea of separating money from government. Which, if you go down the rabbit hole of really understanding, where the value of the dollar comes from, and then, doing that, which I don't want to get into, that'll start to really frustrate me and get me upset. But if you think about the idea of having a digital currency that is not tied to a government,
we'll be like flagged on Spotify if you keep talking.
Yeah, it's true. Or YouTube. We'll get like a little YouTube check on the.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they've demonetized this already, but that's okay. Jokes on them. We weren't making any money.
But having a way to transact outside from a financial perspective, outside the government, is a very interesting thing. So, from a freedom standpoint.
Just checked really quick. My holdings right now are at about $700. So it went from 400 to about 500.
There you go. You're still up. You're still up.
Still up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always up because they gave me
There's free money to begin with.
I've not bought anything.
Yeah. It's
Hear
free.
that, Uncle Sam? I've not bought anything. It was all given to me. None of it was an investment, so none of it is a capital gain. Anyway,
which I do like with that, because I use Coinbase too. I like the Coinbase debit card they have, which they which you can use USDC. USDC, which is if you are going to be putting your money into a digital coin that is backed, make sure it is backed by actual real money. Unlike the Tether, which had some issues with for the past couple weeks. Well, the USDT, the big crash when it came from
I haven't paid anything attention.
Tether and Luna, and how it was basically a stable coin. The difference between a stable coin and then
a coin that's supposedly the value. It's
supposed to be backed by something by
like money,
by fiat,
like way money used to work. But yeah.
Or it could be gold. It could be, but it has to be backed by something. Tether was backed by an algorithm. So basically, an algorithm worked with the Luna coin, which is basically the coin of kind of seeing how that was being transactioned. So the Tether was being burned and minted according to an algorithm, watching the price value of Luna. Maybe is also checking other coins. I can't remember. There was basically an algorithm that's controlling and stabilizing the price. And then so like a bunch of traders, I think they just took advantage of it and then just brought it down. Which, like I said, USDC, it's backed by real money. So if you buy one USDC coin, it's backed by $1. So as long as the US doesn't cave in, which I'm not saying it won't, but let's say
you'll have the same inflation and value problems that you have in the dollar.
True.
In theory.
Yes, and that's actually an interesting topic too, about how
performance is no predictor of future gains.
And how does
everybody understands that?
And we're not financial professionals.
We are not financial.
I know nothing about what I'm saying here.
Please do not take this as anything. This is entertainment, folks.
It is. So, but I do think from a developer standpoint, have you ever thought about doing, like I said, from a fun gaming perspective, I like kind of the NFTs, because you also, when you see like mobile games or see games that are asking you to pay into it, like free to play games, you're like, okay,
I hate them.
Buy these credits. I do agree, because can be money sinks, but from a developer, it's kind of interesting because I do understand the financial model behind it. And I think it does make sense from that. I think there's a lot of money to be made there. But from a platform standpoint, that if it was using a blockchain style platform or tokens, and that there was, some kind of substance behind that when it comes to from a blockchain perspective, I do kind of find that more interesting rather than just paying, whatever for their imaginary coins they have in the app. So if you want to keep playing this app and you have to buy time or buy coins or whatever to buy money that that equates back to dollars, but it's basically in their own system. But then they control that, right? It's a very siloed experience from a financial standpoint, right? So what you're talking about with this the Gala and
you could have
coins and tokens,
you could buy stuff with, and you could transfer back.
As long as an exchange supports those tokens, you could take it out. Which that's the really interesting thing. I think you're giving that freedom and that option to users. You're not locked into that one platform.
From an NFT standpoint, where it makes sense to me is obviously not the stupid Bored Apes, guys. What in the world? It's digital art. Like you, anyway. Anyway,
Yeah,
let's just not. I mean, anybody can just they see it. It's theirs now. Honestly, they can take it. They stop. A screenshot is derivative work essentially.
yeah.
Um, but in games where you already have markets where people build up a player and sell the player, in larger scale games where you build up resources and inventory and things like that, and then you get something and then you put it back in the marketplace to sell. The idea of NFTs there, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It applied to something other than this. In my opinion, I know people will be upset at this. Probably nobody that listens to this because no one listens to this. But the idea that you're going to pay a lot of money for the screen cap of Jack's first tweet, really, we can all see it. It's all there. What exactly are you owning that you think you're owning? What is it?
Yeah,
exactly?
that's what and like I said, I haven't dealt in the NFT thing. The whole, I don't know. That is kind of crazy to me. That's something I've never thought about wanting to. Well, like I said, as a developer, I totally see the financial side of it. I think it could be kind of cool. It could be very interesting to make some money off from. But from a user standpoint and wanting to collect them, wanting to buy them, or to even trade them, I don't know. Like there was one podcast I was listening to that was talking about. It was NFT based about buying shares of artwork. So there's like Picasso, Monet's, like
an actual
famous piece of it.
Actually, and I've seen a couple places that do that. Fractional ownership.
It's called Masterworks, which not sponsored podcast. I know. But I would say I was listening to a podcast that was about WeWork or some crash. It was about I don't know, one of these kind of
WeWork
startup
whole
crashing shows.
There's a series. I don't know if it's on Hulu, Netflix, someplace. There's a WeWork series.
And so I was listening to the podcast. I thought it was funny that this Masterworks company was sponsoring this.
Oh, they were sponsoring it? Okay.
But it was funny. Just listen, I was like, okay, now we must be at the height of some bubble. It kind of feels weird about this podcast about something crashing. This company who's basically in this system, because what they're doing is they're basically they're storing these pieces of art in a warehouse, probably, which there's a whole business around that, there's a bunch of documentaries seeing how these rich people just buy up artworks and they don't put them up anywhere. They don't display them in a museum or even in their house. They just buy them as assets. They store them in a warehouse, and it's crazy. It's just whatever. That's a whole other thing.
Okay, let's just take a brief, and I think this probably, I guess, is our topic. A brief rabbit trail here, because in that so the Masterworks philosophy is you can't buy a Picasso, Mark. I can't buy a Picasso.
You can.
But together, us and 100 other people, maybe we can all pitch and stuff and buy a Picasso, which has value, and it's always had value.
But are you really owning it? That's the other thing too. It's kind of crazy. You're owning
the same way. Are you owning a company when you buy stocks and bonds?
Exactly. Yes. They go down that rabbit hole. Like, what do you really own?
You are owning that company, but your share is not controlling.
It's just imaginary. But it's just imaginary.
It's not imaginary, but it's imaginary in that they have obligations to shareholders. And if you all decided to do something, you could. Now, organizing shareholders.
Now, I'm not saying it doesn't have value. I'm saying it's imaginary, but it has value too.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. It's not like you can come in and, what part of the company do I own, buddy?
I can't go to that Picasso and snip a little bit off it. And that's
right. It's yes. You own a share of something that is indivisible.
Yes.
But it's always had value. People have always valued artwork, right?
Yeah.
And that value may have appreciated. And in fact, it may have appreciated at a greater rate than inflation, so it might be a good investment. But then, like you say, you just buy it up and shove it in a warehouse, and obviously, hopefully, a nice climate controlled warehouse, right?
Probably.
And it just sits there. Well, what if? And I'm sure that there's people at Masterworks that have already thought this through, and this isn't, I'm sure, groundbreaking for anybody. But why not loan it out to a museum? Insure the thing, loan it out to his museum for a fee, and then pay dividends.
Okay,
right? Because
that I
now
would support.
you can pay dividends to the shareholders.
If I could go to, let's say, the Met or the MoMA in New York and go see a painting and say, I own a part of that.
Yep.
That would be a cool experience.
Yep.
And
not just the experience, but whatever the cost is to exhibit it.
Yeah.
You would get there'd obviously be a share that goes to Masterworks, very similar to what a mutual fund manager would make, what the load fees and things like that are for funds. They'd get the management fees, and then it'd come back and it'd be divided between all the shareholders. So now I think this is a really good idea, Mark. What if you and me together go in and buy a board panda or a board ape or a board whatever these NFT things are, and we only let people see it on our website, and then we can make the money from you're not even you're so distracted by this idea.
No, because I had to take a look at the Masterworks website to see really what they do, and basically they kind of similar to what we're talking about, where they basically are holding these artwork. They purchase themselves, so at least they're holding them. Yeah. They're not like sourcing in from or not. It's not being like
leasing or some weird
some type of weird marketplace that they for the sellers. But then they hold the artwork, and then they eventually tend to sell it within whatever 5 to 10 years, whatever based on
they're trying to flip it.
They're trying to flip it themselves. Then you get value. You get paid off once they flip it. I guess that's how they do. Or you could trade your shares in between. I think that's what they could do too. So if you want to trade based on the current
value, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But you're hoping that the sell value is better than appraised value because it should be.
So
if something's in demand.
I get it, but what you just said about, I love that idea of like if there was some type, because then that kind of feeds back into the museum system.
And then also make a copy and sell the copy. That's how it always works. I think you make a copy, you sell the copy, you keep the original, and is that not how that's supposed to happen? No.
No,
I'm not supposed to.
You lost me there. To buy the copy, sell the copy.
You make a copy of the painting and then you sell that, but you say it's the real one and then you keep the copy. I feel like that's just how this always works.
That's what people with money do.
Yeah, I think this, and then you roll it up someplace, you put it behind another picture, you hide it someplace in a vault, and then everybody sees the thing that looks the same because apparently artists are good at duplicating. And you appreciate it. Nobody knows the difference until it's discovered. And then everybody's like, I wish I could see the real one. But the difference is so indistinguishable, I'm not sure exactly why we care.
So getting back to the crypto and the reason why I wanted to talk is
too much of a departure. I
wanted to, I hope this podcast to bring a little bit of positivity in the
positivity.
World. That's what we try to be, right?
Is it what we try to be? I may have missed that part of the mission statement, but I'm on board with it.
Where I hope, and I see in the media, there's so much negativity around crypto. It's justified. If people are losing money, I can understand people get upset, right? You bought at the top, you sold at the bottom. That's not a good way to do things, right?
But the people that are getting upset are the people that have no idea what the thing is.
It's true.
Like Bitcoin hits 40,000, everybody's like, it's going to go up. You have no idea what you're talking about.
This is what I'm hoping that will happen during this downturn or this crypto winter, whatever you want to call it. Because I do think eventually it's going to come.
Winter. I like
Yes. Oh, it is. It's good. It's not. And this is my first crypto winter too. That's why I'm like, this is nothing. I'm like, come on.
I've weathered better storms than this.
And that's honestly, this is a time where if you really want to invest in crypto, this is the time to make money.
Yeah, now's the time to buy it.
Like buying a year ago? No, not good. But buying now, you're in a better position than you would be a year ago, I think.
Unless it's still going to go down. You think it's still going to go further?
It could. It could.
You'll let us know when we're at the bottom.
I called the I saw because when I was doing the trading, I got into the technicals a little bit. I called the Dow Jones. Looks like they have support around 28, which I think if that happens, that's going to be big. Right now, it's holding on to the 30-31, and with the general market. I do like also the fact which I'm seeing there's a decoupling that's happening, a hope that's happening with crypto and the general market, because I didn't like how if the Nasdaq went up, crypto would go up. If the Nasdaq went down, crypto would go down. I didn't like that. I always liked the fact that like it was kind of a separate.
I felt like it was too much valuing the same things,
and didn't like, which I understand how that correlation got created, because a lot of Nasdaq companies are either specializing in crypto or they're investing in crypto themselves. They're putting a lot of their money into their crypto. So I understand how that happened. I hope there could be a decoupling of that correlation. I think then it could see a little bit of so they won't follow the trends exactly the same. But I do find that this time though is kind of interesting, where if you want to think about it as a platform, like I said, talk about it not just as an investment. Because like I said, I'm more interested in crypto nearly not as an investment. It's more of like a functionality standpoint. I was thinking like what could be built on top of this new platform, the whole Web3 thing of the decentralized apps, and what could be done with that. That is interesting from, let's say, a 5 to 10 year stand, in the future of what the internet's going to be like, what transactions are going to be like. And I think from a tool perspective, looking at blockchain more as a tool and less of investment, I hope more people coming out of this will look at it like that.
Less of even though this is where to make money, more this is interesting technology.
Yes,
let's consider how else it could be used
to solve problems, to build solutions. I think that's really exciting and really, really interesting.
Yeah, like anything that we want in a historical record would be great to have on blockchain.
Yeah, which if you look at the blockchain, it's basically like a linked list.
Yeah. Yeah, with
Which
each
is
one
kind of
signed
cool
by the rest.
if you really think about it, that's based on the integrity of that and saying how the separate nodes and knowing which nodes can have the more accurate version of blockchain. Well, it's just based on a history, right? Who has the best history? Who has the most recent history?
Yep.
They're based off of that. So if you look at the actually technology, and I encourage people, if you're listening to this and actually haven't really dug into the fact of what is a blockchain from a technical standpoint, not just how the idea of, okay, you have to mine coins or coins and tokens, how the transaction, but actually look at the technical parts about how the data is actually stored and then also how it's distributed. I think it's pretty fascinating. And I think, like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of interesting systems that are going to be built on top of this.
So look at the technology, not at it as if it is an investment.
Which, like I said, I'm all about making money with it too, which I think there are a lot of good opportunities, a lot of prices that are low right now. I think that it will come back eventually, but I wouldn't be looking to flip something.
One thing that does come to mind is the fact that nothing in this podcast constitutes professional and or financial advice, nor does any information in this podcast constitute to a comprehensive or complete statement of the matters discussed or the law relating thereto. The Dev Friday Show is not a fiduciary by any virtue of any person's use or access to this podcast.
There you go.
So
we are in the free and clear, so nobody can sue us. And I like that.
Yeah, except whoever I just ripped that disclaimer from. Their legal team's currently drafting an email right now saying, "How could you possibly quote us on your stupid podcast?"
Last 5 minutes here. So what's it been like for you? Because what's
I like 55 minutes Mark topic. 5 minutes Tim's talking. This is a good split.
Remember,
I think
we are making the show more professional, Tim. So next
right.
week you'll come with your topic, I'll come with mine, and then we'll do a little bounce between the two.
I don't know. Like, I had a thought. I don't even know how to get to it, though. That's the thing. So making stuff, right? Like, I like making stuff. I have
you are a maker. Yes.
If you're watching this, if you're watching the live stream, I have a 3D printer behind me. I also have a diode laser sitting on a desk just right over there. I want to get a CO2 laser. Those are the funny ones with all the mirrors and stuff. But before that, I got a diode laser that don't have as much power, but they don't have as much parts, right? You don't have to have the reflectiveness of it. It's just a laser head that's mounted very much like a 3D printer head, right? It moves on a gantry and it does stuff. So I've been doing some engraving. I've been doing some cutting. It's actually pretty cool. And I'm doing some of it. I can't say what I'm making with it. But I'm doing some of it for our internal developer meeting that we're having in a couple weeks. Getting some things made, and I have to make some things with a 3D printer to be able to make some other things, to be able to customize some stuff for the things that are going to go in a box that's delivered to all the developers on our team. So I am really excited about the stuff that I'm making. Yeah, some
swag,
stuff.
Make some homemade swag.
Stuff. Yeah, a little bit of that, a little bit of branding. So I'm excited about that, and maybe we can talk about that in like 4 weeks or so once the dev meeting's over. But so yeah, I've been playing with Lightburn, been playing with lasers and
Lightburn is that a software?
Yeah, Lightburn is I'm guessing one of the most popular in terms of the consumer level laser stuff. I think Lightburn's one of the most popular and robust laser control, whatever you want to call it, the thing that controls your laser. Right, because it's all. I mean, with a laser, it's either vector where you're doing cuts, or it's raster where you're rapidly going back and just turning the laser on and off to engrave stuff. So getting used to that. I mean, it's new. Did the 3D printer thing for a couple of years now, learning how to do the laser stuff. So laser stuff's far more CNC like. I mean, 3D printers are CNCs too, but with the slicers, you don't see as much of that. But the laser's far more CNC like. So it's been fun making some stuff.
And it's all a tax write-off too, I'm assuming.
I mean, I wouldn't discuss that on the show, obviously.
Well, hey, I would definitely claim those taxes.
You would claim it. You would.
You're producing pieces for work, right?
Well, that is true. I guess. Yeah, you make it. Mark makes a good case.
Maybe you don't have to deduct the whole value of it, but you could just, a fraction of the value you could do.
Fractional ownership of a diode laser. And the other thing is diode lasers are not that expensive compared to like a larger scale CO2 laser. So that it was easy to get in it and play with it, and it's been fun making stuff. I like making things.
I know.
All right, so I got to come up with a topic for next week. You're going to come up with a topic for next
Yeah.
week, and we're just going to be more professional about this, aren't we, Mark?
I think we are. I think we need to level the show up, Tim.
Oh, and here's the
because
thing.
hopefully someday we can get some Bitcoin in here and people donate to us.
I completely thought when you told me you wanted the title to be trying to be more professional, that you were going to come on and tell me about your new job. But I understand that you don't want your coworkers at the school to find out about it through the show.
The only thing I'm being honest about in public about, Tim, I'm always for sale.
You're always for sale. Well, that's important.
That's my new motto.
We didn't even get to talk about this. How did everybody graded?
School's done. Grade's done. It's good. Yeah. Like I said, that's all done. Now it's just the house. The house can just not bother me so much.